Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Have you ever wondered what games you should sell or you should use? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Find out on our top 10 list what games you cannot miss. Don't forget to subscribe to Purge Reviews.
Clank. Now, Clank is one of my favorite games I've got. I have just fallen in love with this game. Now, what is so great about it? Because you're just like, we've seen this before. We've seen Dungeon Dwellers. We've seen Deck Builders. We've seen Press Your Luck. But what we haven't seen is all of them together. And sometimes when you kind of smash something new together, it becomes brilliance. And that's what you have with Clank. It's a very, very easy game to learn. Very, very easy game to play, mostly because you've seen this before. You've seen all of the parts before, but you've never seen it smashed in together. This doesn't work all the time. No. We've seen in movies and TV shows where it just doesn't work, even board games. This is one where it works brilliantly. I love the deck building aspect to it. There's a few currencies going on. You got the skills where you can buy additional cards for your deck. You've got the boots that will help you move around the board. You have the swords that allow you to fight things as you're going through, that pesky goblin that's coming after you. In addition, you're going to have coins that will use to buy things in the market. Now, the things that you can buy in the market will theoretically help you get around the dungeon better. You're going to have keys that will let you get through marked doors that are blocked and locked. You will have crowns that just give you more victory points and goodies, if you will. And then you will have a bag that will allow you to get another artifact. An artifact is what you're trying to accomplish that usually gives you big victory points, right? And you can't win the game without having an artifact, and the bag allows you to get an additional one. These are very, very valuable. So what are you going to go after? Do you want better cards for your deck? Do you want to be able to move around better and get all the goodies before everybody else gets them? Or do you want to be able to fight things? Because you will be finding people to fight that will give you great treasure as you go through. Perhaps fighting is the least important of the group. And then maybe the market, maybe the boots, or the cards that you're buying. It just depends on what you're into and how you want to build your deck. But for all of the players, you're trying to do the same thing. Get in and get out. Because if you stay too long, you'll get a lot of points, but you're going to die and they won't count. But if you get out too soon, other people will be able to get some points and get out before it matters. So there's a really good timing aspect to this. And I don't think you can go into the game saying, I have a strategy and I'm going to go through it like this and win all the time, because it depends on what the other players do. If the other players get in and out quickly, then you got to get out, get in, and maybe get some stuff and get out just above ground, but you're foregoing the 20 points you get for getting completely out of the castle. I think if too many people go early, it will give you an advantage. You might want to stick around longer. You almost want to zig while they're zagging. I think that's the way to win. But you cannot have a set strategy going in, I don't believe, because there's too many other factors going on. What cards are coming up? What are my opponents doing? And this is just brilliant. This is really good for a deck building game to not say, okay, I need to get this, and then I'm going to start scoring victory points. You don't do that in this. There's a whole game going on outside of the deck building. The deck building is just kind of the mechanism, I guess, to make the things on the board move around. So it's almost like the gears, and then here's what's happened down here, and you have decisions to make down here. What do you want to do? Do you want to go really deep in the dungeon and go after those big victory point artifacts? Or do you just want to go to maybe the top of the dungeon, grab something lighter, and get the heck out of Dodge? But there are a lot of things you can do, and you want to do them all. In addition, as you're going around the board, these random items, either major or minor ones that you can get, that can totally help you. Wow, that's a lot going on. But while that's going on, there's a dragon that's chasing you. And as you move, you're going to be making noise, or in this game, what's called clank. That's the sound of your armor. Clank, 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 clank. And you'll be putting cubes into this common area that at certain points of the game, you will grab all those cubes, put them in a bag, and you will draw a number out. If a black cube is drawn, that's the dragon, just moving around. No breeze, no foul, it's a day at the beach. But if you draw your color, that's a wound. And when you're drawing like 6 out at a time, and you get 4 of yours, and you go from 4 wounds to 8, and now you're on the precipice of dying. I gotta get above ground quickly as possible, because if you die in the dungeon, your points don't score. If you get all the way out of the castle, there's a 20-point bonus for doing so. But you better have an artifact, because if you didn't get an artifact, your points don't count. But if I have an artifact, and I get out of the castle, get out of the dungeon, and I go above ground and die, my points do score, but I forego the 20 extra points I would have got for getting out of the castle entirely. So, can I make, if I only have a couple turns left in the game, can I make more points down here in the dungeon or above ground getting things? Or do I need to make a dash for that 20-pointer? Well, it might depend on whether you have the boots or not to get out. Boots are the mechanism you're going to have on your cards to move around the board. So, sometimes a game will push you in a certain direction because you didn't properly build your deck because you could anticipate the situation that you're in right now. And I like that. So as you go, you're getting more and more equipment, if you will, which are these cards that allow you to do different things. And you're kind of stuck with that. There's no last hurrah sometimes because you're just trying to get up there. There's many times at the end of the game where you got all your loot and it's weighing you down and you're trying to get in and out. And you know that game clock is ticking because that first person's already out. And you're just kind of getting up through that dungeon. And then you fall a little bit short. And you're like, I almost had you. And it's just a great moment. And this game is full of great moments. If you will let your imagination go wild just a tad, you will find yourself enthralled by this game. You will find yourself falling in love with it. And most of all, you will find yourself having fun. This game is beyond fun. Now, I should say I'm a big fan of deck building games, without question. That's a true statement. I love Euro games. I do like pressure luck games, as long as there's a game around it. I can only deal with that so much. That's just a filler to me. This is not. There's a legitimate game wrapped around this. It's fun. Your friends can play with you, and everybody's having a good time. And really, every time you lose, you feel like you were this close to winning. And I just love that about this game, without having some really bad catch-up mechanism in it. Now, what I don't like about the game, I don't like any game that has player elimination. This game sort of has that. You can die, okay? And everybody else is still playing the game. But when you die, at least the first person dies, or gets out of the castle where you'll also stop playing, there's a timer. There's only 5 more rounds to the game. And on your turn, you'll be drawing from the dungeon bag, bringing the dungeon out more and more often, which theoretically should speed the game up greatly. Everybody should be, theoretically, hightailing their way out of that dungeon. So, you know if you die that it's only going to go on a finite amount of turns, which is within reason of finite amount of time, or shorter. I can live with that because the game is brilliant. It's not my favorite mechanism in the world, but I do like it. You're going to have to like deck building for this. A lot of deck building into this. You're going to have to like moving around the dungeon, and I think all of that is really fun. There have been some reported component issues with this game. I did have to sleeve my cards. The quality isn't that great. The cubes, normally you'd want something a little bit more thematic, but because you're drawing from the bag, there's a pass there. The artwork is phenomenal. I really like the artwork in this game. And I myself have not experienced a lot of component issues, but I do know from reading around the Board Game Geek and other websites that there are some issues with the components, and I just want to make you aware of that, although I myself have not experienced them other than having to sleeve the cards, but I've been playing this game a lot, so that doesn't surprise me. As for Clank overall, I feel like this is an absolute must purchase. I love this game. It's going to be instantly one of my classics that I keep for a very long time, and I'm totally comfortable bringing this game out with nearly anyone. I just think this is one of those games that works, is fun, and has a great experience, and that's very, very rare. So for me, absolute keeper, highly recommend this game. Here's Here are the components for Clank, a deck building game. Now, this is a pretty good sized box. You know, maybe like a ticket to ride size box. I do like how this really shows you what you're doing in the game. You're these characters, you're diving down into a dungeon, and you have this dragon guy coming after you. So, major props for that. Not all boxes do that. Inside, I got an advertisement for some Renegade games, so be it. The rule book. Now, the rules really aren't that long. I do like the setup over here, and the picture of the components and everything set up is fantastic. You're going to see a lot of blank spaces for pictures on this. It's more for organization, which is great. Using that space up is fantastic. And then a little reference guide on the back, which is well appreciated. This is the board that sits in it. I'm going to come back to this in a second. Now, here's what you have. You're going to have a pretty good insert. You can see I just threw some stuff down in here. I threw some stuff down in here, and this will fit the cards. Now, the way that I've organized this, just for myself, these are all the starter cards that people would have. Now, you'll notice that these are pretty generic, just a little bit of picture, and they're signified by the gray at the top. But these aren't going to have a lot of powers, just some icons to the side. So that's where I put mine. And then here, I put the ones that are always out. So you have the goblin that anybody can fight. You're going to have the secret tomes, which aren't anything but victory points. And the mercenary, which there's a ton of these because they're just kind of always there. They're cheap to buy, and they give you that. Or you could do the explorer. So there'll be a stack of these in every single game. Then I have the major stack of cards, which will be all the fun things that are going on. And these all have a bunch of different artwork and fun things you can do. Draw a card, fight this guy. You see the little symbol for the dragon that will move. So you have a great variety in this. You do shuffle the cards a lot. I will be sleeving mine because I really do like this game and I want to keep it nice. But you can see after, I don't know, 20 games or so, you can start to see that it's starting to wear here. So I'm going to need to sleeve this one up. You're going to have little cubies in different colors. These are just regular wooden cubes, but they're miniature ones. Nothing to write home about. You're going to get a really neat dragon bag that will match all the artwork in the game that's used. And inside of this, you will keep your black cubes for the dragon, and you're going to get this dragon cool wooden piece that will be used on the board. Okay, so here's the board. It's double-sided. I'm going to show you this side first. This is kind of the easy side. You will start up here in the dungeon and work your way down underneath into what they call the depths. This is where you'll be putting your Clank, and you have the dragon moving over here. I really like it. It's really neat looking, and you'll see, let me flip it over and show you the quote-unquote more advanced side. It just kind of moves things around. You can see that it's getting towards dark here, but the things are in different places, and that's what makes this game cool. So the track kind of works the same. You have the wounds at the bottom the same, but where everything is, if you look, you have a market here, 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 just for example. You have one above ground, which is different. And this one, they're all just kind of sitting in the center. So you have a double-sided board. Very, very good. The board is very user-friendly. Like it a lot. I found the rules for Clank to be very good. I didn't really have a whole lot of problems. Now, I played pressure luck games before. I played dungeon games before. I played deck building games before. Maybe that would help. But I feel like this game went through all those steps, even if you never played those, fairly well. I don't foresee anybody have any problems with this rule book. For me, it's an easy read. So how to play the game. I'm going to show you really quickly how to play it. You're going to have these little guys that represent you, and you'll be moving your guy through the castle to get artifacts. You can only have one artifact, and they come in different victory points levels. So like one here is 30 and one is 15. Well, why would you ever go for the 15? Well, the 15 will be higher up, and it may be, and the 30 is usually going to be in a spot that's a little bit harder to get to. All right. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be rushing down here, getting victory points and stuff, and then getting out. The first person that gets out, and all other players who get out, get what's called a mastery token, which is an extra 20 victory points, okay? And once somebody gets out, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more turns of the game. So every round, you'll move here, draw dragon tokens, +1, +2 here, dragon tokens +3, and eventually the game will end. When the game ends, if you're below ground, you lose and cannot win. If you're above ground or have got out and you do not have an artifact token, you lose. Cannot win without that. If you're above ground or you got out and you have an artifact token, then you will just score your victory points. You will get victory points for your artifacts. You'll get the mastery tokens that can come out of the board. You got little monkey tokens that you can get from the board. And there'll just be miscellaneous victory points that you can get other ways through the game. There will also be these keys that you can get at the market. If you ever come down to one of these spots for 7 coins, you can buy a key. And what a key will let you do is go through any spot marked with a lock. You can't get through it without a key. There's also crowns that you can buy. Now they cost 7 coins, which each coin's worth a victory point into the game. So you can cash them in and get a crown that's worth 9 victory points, 8 or 10. In addition, there are other things you can buy. You can buy a book bag. Normally, you can only ever have 1 artifact. Once you pick it up, you cannot release it. If you buy a backpack, which is worth 5 victory points at the end of the game alone, but it costs you 7, so it's a -2 to buy it, really, because you're losing 2 victory points. But you can pick up a second artifact. That can be very, very, very powerful when you're playing the game. So those are the 3 things you can buy in this set. You can buy the key, which allows you to go through marked places. You can get the book bag that allows you to pick up another artifact, or the crown that just is worth more victory points. So what you'll be doing here on some of these spots, you're going to have the board set up. There will be these question marks that will come through. So when you're moving, if you land on a spot, you just get whatever it is. In this case, a healing potion that will allow you to pick up wounds. And some of them, like this one, allows you to draw some cards, and this one gives you 5 coins. So you'll be going through those. But here's how movement works. I'm going to get to the deck building side of it. So whenever you move from space to space, it's going to cost you 1 movement on one of your cards. I'll show you how that works. And again, if you go past a spot with these footprints, it will cost you 2 movement points. Once again, the locks you can only go through if you have the key. Now, if you go through a place like this with a goblin on it, then you would have to have 1 sword available on one of your cards that you're playing this round, or you will take 1 wound. So at the bottom here, you're going to have wound markers that are coming up. If this ever fills up, you're knocked out. If you're in the depths, you lose when you're knocked out. If you're knocked out above ground, but you have an artifact, you're still eligible to win. But if you die above ground and you don't have an artifact, then you will automatically lose. Keep in mind, some of these will have like 2 goblins that it will have on it. So that's pretty much how movement is going to work. Now, as for the cards, you're going to be deck building. So you're going to start out with a group of cards, and every round you're going to draw 5, just like most. And if your deck runs out, you shuffle up your discard. Now, these boots that you draw will allow you to move. Each one is worth 1 movement point. Keep in mind, move from space to space is 1 movement point, unless it has the footprints, then it is 2. These blue is what's called skill points. Don't confuse it with money or currency. This is what's going to allow you to buy other cards. So the other cards that will come up, you'll have 6 at a time, will have a cost at the bottom. So this one will cost 8. In this case, if you bought this, it would cost you 8 skill points. You would immediately get 2 Clank, which I'll get to in a second. But every time you draw it, you get to draw a card. That's kind of how they work. This one costs 6 when you draw it in your deck. Teleport to an adjacent room or take a secret room from an adjacent room. And it's worth 3 victory points at the end of the game. Now, some of the cards will also have these red swords on it. And that's how you fight people. If you draw in your deck with this, in this case, you would have 2. You can use those, once again, to go through these so you don't have to take any injuries. Or if you go up against somebody that has this at the bottom, you get to fight. So I had 2 swords. I could fight this guy, defeat him, and get the coin. You don't get to keep those red cards when you beat them. So unlike, say, DC Comics, they just go away. So in this case, you defeat him, I get to draw 2 cards. It's a one-time power. So that's kind of how those are going to work. And it's just like most deck building games, you're going to draw your 5 and spend them how you want. There is currency you can get, so you can get some money in it. Each dollar or coin is worth 1 victory point, but once again, they can always be spent at the market. Now, the other little thing to the game is this Clank. So this is one of the ways that makes this game a little bit different. So as some of your cards you'll play, and I'll show you an example of one. That's a starter card. Right here, it says +1 Clank. So this game is a little unique that whenever you draw your cards, you have to play every card that you draw. So in this case, if I drew it, I have to put 1 Clank up here. Okay? If at any time, when the cards are bought on a table, and we have to replenish that. If a dragon is dealt, then you will draw a number of cubes from the bag, depending on how far along the track is. So if it was right here, you would draw 3 cubes, okay? So what you would do is you would take all the cubes from the Clank, you would put them into the bag, shuffle them up, and draw them out. If you draw one of the blacks that are in here, that's nothing. That's just the dragon moving around. But if you were to draw a color, that is a wound. That represents the dragon coming after you and attacking you. So you want to be careful about this, because the more Clank you put in, the better chance there is that you will draw that out. Now the dragon will move if anybody picks up an artifact or if a dragon egg is found. So as the game progresses, you'll be drawing more and more cubes. Now some of the cards that come out will have special powers that will say, like this one, all players get +1 Clank when he arrives. All players get +1 Clank. And some of them put 3 dragon cubes back in the bag. This one's really important. Pull +1 cube for any dragon attack. So if you were on a 3 over there, if this guy was out and not purchased, it would be 4 you'd be drawing every time. So that can be very, very deadly very, very quickly. So let me kind of go over the game a little bit more. So you're going to be drawing your cards, and then you're going to be taking your actions. So if these are my 5 cards, I would have 4 skill points to purchase, and I would have to put 1 Clank up there. If I had this card in my hand, then I would have 1 skill point and 2 ways to fight. So, if you ever played a deck builder before, you'll be going through these. Now, the only other little caveat is these purple cards. You buy them with skill points, and there are a use once. But otherwise, you'll see some cards will let you move twice, but you get to take 2 Clank away from the board, not the bag. This one gives you 2 Clank, but it's a dead run, so you get to move twice. But you don't have to stop in the crystal caves, which is nice, because when you go through these crystal caves, anytime you reach one, you must stop. So as you know from most deck builders, these cards are going to be what you're going to want to build your deck up with. This is a super fun game. It's not very confusing at all, and most people will be able to pick it up rather quickly. It's just a little deck building, pressure luck game. Who should buy this game? I'm going to recommend this game for all gamers. If you just hate something about this game, the pressure lock or the deck building, you just cannot stand it, let me tell you that this may be one that you like. This is one of those games that kind of pulls everything together. So if you don't like deck building, well, it's here, and there's not a whole lot you can do to get around it, but you might want to focus on something other aspect of the game. If you absolutely are just like, I would never ever play deck builder, then obviously you're not going to want to play this. But if you don't like the normal deck builders, which is just about really counting up numbers, you may actually like this one because there's a board and there's things going on as opposed to just deck building. Deck building just kind of gears up the game while you're doing the fun part of it somewhere else, perhaps, if you don't like deck building. And the opposite is true. I think if you're really good at deck building, I think you can make this game work. You can't minimize what you're doing on the board, but it can just become an afterthought. This is something I do with my cards. It's just a mentality that you would have. So I would highly recommend this game. If you don't really even like these genres, I think this is one you should definitely check out at least. Otherwise, this is an instant buy, and I recommend you keeping it. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel, lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.